This year turned out way better than I was expecting. Definitely been thinking more about the coming year than this one. I was kind of shocked when making this list and I had a tough time placing games. Hell, I had 2 last-minute switches days before writing this list, foreshadowing how much of a bitch next year is going to be. As for this year, let's go through the rules. Any game I played for the first time this year is eligible, but there's going to be less older games this time around. I have this rule because I want to look back at all of the games I played this year, not just the new releases. Also, in case there's a year where I don't like a lot of the new releases. I'm not trying to have a video where I think half of the games are mid and they're only there because I need this list to be 10. I'm also going to change up how I go about writing this a bit. Instead of giving an overview of the game where I'm like, oh, this part is good, oh, and this one aspect is great. While I will do that spiel, I also want to talk about what made these games special and why they're on the list. I feel like people's reactions to this game is going to be, how the hell did that make the list? Or, why the hell is this so low? Trust me, I'm just as shocked as you are. I was ready for this game to be so bad, but it did the bare minimum for this series, which really shouldn't be a plus. Sonic Frontiers is a great launching point for the rest of the series. Sonic skipped the collectathon genre and went jumping into 3D, and I really liked how they handled it. Sega's talked about this being the future of the series, which is why I was bringing it up earlier. Running around these levels, picking up different collectibles to open more traditional Sonic levels is a formula I can get behind. There's been a few cyberspace levels that have just stuck with me since I beat the game. When I was editing my review, I was watching some of the gameplay I recorded and was just thinking to myself, oh man, this looks like a blast. Wait, I recorded this. It was a blast. I wish I spent more time with it too. I am motivated to 100% it, but I just got too much stuff to play right now. There's been a rumored Sonic Adventure 1 remake for a very long time, and I would absolutely love it if it played like Frontiers. That's how much I believe in this being the future of Sonic. When that DLC comes out and Tails, Amy, and Idris Elba all play exactly like they do in SA1, I'm convinced that remake is happening. Giving me faith in the series is why this game stuck with me and why it's on this list. Also, please make more lyrical songs that go this hard, Sega. They were so out of pocket, but I loved it. Keep it up, Sonic team. For a game that was seemingly in development hell, it came out very solid. Bayonetta 3 is an incredibly well-made experience. There are 2 simple reasons why it's on this list. Combat and the spectacle. This shit just feels so good. Just Bayo though. The other characters aren't as fun to play, but they still play fine, so never mind. But when you're feeling it as Bayonetta, it's so tight. Throughout the game, I could just see that I was improving. My averages went from silvers to golds as the game went on. As someone who hasn't played a whole lot of character actions, this is very approachable. Every pure platinum I got was like the best fight I've ever had in a video game. This game can just get you in such a good flow. So yeah, the game is fun as f***, but it's also just bombastic. Like, this might be one of the most insane openings I've ever played in a video game. Look at this shit. New York is gone. Then Tokyo is erased in what might be my favorite boss battle of the year. The spectacle and destruction is some of the most insane I've seen in a video game. I don't know why I'm still talking about it. It's explosive. It's fun. Go play it. I think this might be my most recommended game this year.
What is education? Here at 2 Point Campus, we aim not only to pose that question, but also to ask it.
Sim games are kind of weird for me. The only ones I've played a fuck ton, but those games are Roller Coaster Tycoon and Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. It's an itch I get a lot, and the only way to scratch it is by playing RTC Classic on my phone. Then one of my friends told me 2 Point Hospital was really good, and that I should play 2 Point Campus when it comes out. I would say playing 60 hours of a game that wasn't really on my radar is very good. It was just really fun laying out a university. Much like with Bayonetta 3, I'm not going to have a whole lot to say about this, because what I loved about it was that it was fun. The scenarios were great, and its humor was on 2 Point. One of my favorite things to do was making a perfect campus after getting all 3 stars. That's how I ended up spending most of my time in this game. Just trying to make the best secret agent culinary school I can. If you like sim games, please play this. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, and it's definitely one of the most underrated games of the year. It's a sim game. There's not many ways you can make a montage out of it. I'm out of ideas, just cut to the next game. This series shouldn't be good. This series shouldn't exist. I'm so happy it does. The original Mario and Rabbids was the biggest surprise for me. I remember when this got leaked, it sounded so cursed. A Mario and Rabbids crossover in the style of XCOM and Grant Kirkhope is composing? Look at this image! Mario has a fucking gun! Once it came out, I was blown away. And Sparks of Hope does not disappoint. The exploration is better, the combat is better, and the soundtrack surpasses the original. The writing is so good, and it's a part of what makes this game special. Mario RPGs have had a rough time since around the mid-Wii U era. Mario and Luigi had a steady decline until Alpha Dream died, when Nintendo refused to pay for their medical bills. Paper Mario is as far away from Super Mario RPG as it could be, and somehow Ubisoft of all companies have come in and saved the subgenre. Hell, they got the composer of Super Mario RPG and Mario and Luigi to work on this game. Playing it, you can tell that this game was made with love and care. The writing for Bowser is on point. One of my biggest worries going into the game was that he wasn't going to live up to RPG Bowsers of the past. But they nailed him, and they gave him a rocket launcher in this game. He's literally RPG Bowser. Ubisoft Milan did an impressive job. I found this game to be at its best when I was trying to win battles in as few turns as possible. The game just has so much customization between the characters and the sparks. It's a very fun toolbox to work with, and the boss fights were creative and a blast to fight. Honestly, my only issue is that I wish it let me bring in more characters. I would have loved if it allowed me to have the full cast in all of the fights. It's still a phenomenal RPG with an exciting roadmap ahead. It's on this list because it fills the hole that was left behind by the other Mario RPGs. The sparks invoke the badge system from Paper Mario, and it literally sounds like a Mario and Lewis Sky game, and it's written like all of them. It's a perfect love letter to the entirety of the Mario series. Thank you, Ubisoft. Ew, that felt weird. I get why people love this game as much as they do. My intention was to not play the original Final Fantasy VII until all of Remake was done. I greatly prefer action RPGs to turn-based RPGs, and I can wait to experience this story in a genre I prefer, with modern graphics. But then Rebirth was shown off, and I had a few people tell me, yeah, you should probably play the original first. One OG later, and I kind of regret waiting to play it. Knowing the original has really made Remake better for me. The original has some phenomenal moments. Every single time it revisited a certain flashback, I knew the game was about to pop off. It's impressive how in 2022, the game is still able to get the same emotions out of the player that it was able to give to people back in 1997. Look at this frame. This made me audibly go, oh, that's a part of the magic this game has gained over the years. It's able to fight through its limitations, and is still able to be an amazing JRPG. I definitely would have had a harder time on original hardware. Being able to fast forward, turn on God mode, and disable encounters made backtracking and grinding way more bearable. Modern ports removed 99% of the stuff that made this game dated. I've always known Final Fantasy VII was a great game, but when playing older games, you'll have to accept some jank, which I was prepared for. Outside of the map design that I could legitimately not figure out what I was looking at sometimes, I barely felt it. Final Fantasy VII does an amazing job of keeping you entertained. It lives up to this legacy, even after all of these years. Before we keep this gravy train going, let's look at some honorable mentions. There's a lot of movement on this list, and a huge chunk of these games were on it at one point in time. Shoutouts to Guardians of the Galaxy, Sackboy, A Big Adventure, Triangle Strategy, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Resident Evil 4, VR, Yakuza 4, and 5, and 6, and Judgment Super Hot, VR, Everything Everywhere, All at Once, Severance, the final season of Better Call Saul, and The Rehearsal. Okay, so those last 4 aren't games, but I had to bring them up just to say I highly, 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 highly recommend Everything Everywhere All at Once. It might be one of the best movies I've ever seen in theaters. And the other 3 are some of the best television I've ever seen. Go watch all of them. Anyways, back to the games. I'm about to spoil the shit out of this game. Pokemon Leggings Arceus really stuck with me. January games have it rough. They're too early in the year to get nominated for most awards. Recency bias is a thing. And they're too close to the end of last year that everyone still has the previous GOTY on their mind. Arceus was able to stick with me for the entire year, despite all of that. As I've gotten older, I've fallen out of competitive battling, but have turned to shiny hunting. Arceus is centered around catching Pokemon, which is how I've been spending my time in this series as of late. I've completed the dex in every game since Ultra Sun, and it was by far the most enjoyable in this one. It's great actually seeing Pokemon in their habitat. Never before have I ran away from a Pokemon, terrified it for my life, like I did in this game. The exploration is good, but it's definitely carried by the fact that I love exploring an ancient version of a world I've walked through before, heightened by seeing the ancestors of characters we've known for over a decade. But all of this isn't why this game stuck with me. The endgame to postgame is the best thing Pokemon has ever done, in my opinion. No, I have heard great things about Gen 9's postgame, but I haven't even beaten the main game yet. One of my favorite things about the Pokemon series is that the endgames would make it feel like the world would end if you failed. Something about Gen 6 through 8 failed to achieve that for me. Arceus does an amazing job of giving me that feeling back twice, all while incorporating some deep lore too, which is another one of my favorite aspects of it. The last part of the postgame is exactly what I always wanted out of a Pokemon game. The story itself was fun, but it would be nothing without the fights and the music. Volo's betrayal is funny because the character that teaches you the back attack stabs you in the back. Then there's an amazing remix of Cynthia's encounter theme. After a fight where he uses Cynthia's team, you have to fight Giratina and then fight Origin Form Giratina. And the best part about those Giratina fights is honestly what it does with the music. It goes from the generic Gen 4 legendary battle theme when you're fighting base Giratina, after you beat it, it transitions with the Distortion World theme. Then its Platinum theme explodes out when it transforms. The best part is that all of these fights have to be done back to back to back. Each time I finished one of those phases, I was left with one Pokemon that ended up getting one-shot by Giratina. It's a perfectly constructed fight. Just look at these streamers reacting to it. It's truly what every player experienced when they reached this point.
Goodbye, So long! Farewell! Avidas and adieu! Goodbye, Giratina!
Yes! Dead! You're dead!
So it's like an hour and 50.
Shaman the go for that one.
Ha!
No! What the fuck?
What is happening?
Jesus Christ!
And then after the hardest fight in the entire series, you take on God. And it's the perfect mixture of all of the Totem Pokemon fights that came before it. All to the tune of a remix I can't even describe what genre it's in. Frontiers might have caught me off guard with its lyrical songs. Nothing this year left me as confused as I was when I first listened to Arceus' battle theme. The more I let this game sink in, the more I end up liking it. I pray to Arceus that we get more Legends games because this was the most inspired Pokemon game in a very long time. Goodbye, Fodlan.
People of Fodlan, the Empire will stand by no longer.
We shall fight. We shall survive. And we shall win a glorious future for Fodlan.
And this day, on this battlefield, we stake a claim to a future of our own making.
This one kind of came out of nowhere for me. Not in the sense that it was a game that I randomly stumbled upon and thought was really good. I enjoy Warriors spin-offs a lot. This was going to be a day one purchase for me, but that was mostly because of my love for Fire Emblem and Three Houses. But when launch day came around, it just hit me in the right spot. I remember talking to a buddy about it at the time and saying, you know what? I don't care if Warriors combat is just button mashing. It feels good, and my dumb idiot brain loves it. A bunch of the class-specific abilities pack such a good punch, too. Lysithia's ability to pull back in launched enemies is so fun. I just want that in more games. I've always preferred games with aggressive combat systems, and that ability could just fit into so many. The structure might be my favorite out of all of the recent Warriors games. The warm-up is great, and the class system is somehow better than it was in Three Houses. But what really stuck out to me was how it builds upon Three Houses' story. I've always really enjoyed this war. It's designed in a way where changing the framing of it by using Byleth as a vessel in Three Houses impacts who's right and wrong. Hell, even what's considered right or wrong. The line shifts depending on whose story you're going down, and Shez carries that torch excellently. This game dares to ask, what if the three lords stumbled upon this fucking guy instead of Byleth? That one thing sets off a butterfly effect that changes allegiances and when the war starts. The game is able to add another layer to the characters of Three Houses. It's great seeing Claude's scheming resulting in a more brutal side of him we never got to see in Three Houses. Dimitri wasn't destroyed by a revelation before the war, so we get to see someone closer to a pre-time skip him during it. During the first month at the monastery, Edelgard cuts ties with those who sliver in the dark, leading to a more just war from the Empire. The game does stuff like that for the entire cast too, not just the lords. It was also great seeing characters we only heard about in Three Houses. I didn't think I could enjoy this war more, but this game proves me wrong. It's a fantastic addition to Three Houses, and I will truly miss these characters. Goodbye, my students. Also, I got rated by Claude's voice actor while I was streaming it, and that was easily the peak of my time on Twitch this year.
Yo! Dude! Oh my god, that is so awesome! Yo,
Skunkback3 is now following.
Did Claude's voice actor just hit me with a raid? Enjoy the game? I will, Joe. Thank you so much. Definitely was not expecting that when I woke up today.
I played a decent amount of VR games this year. This one was easily the most impressive. This is my first time playing a Half-Life game. I guess I also played half of 2 in a VR mod once, but that doesn't count. After playing Alex, I feel like this series can't be the same outside of VR. Alex is what VR games should be like, but make them a bit faster. You can interact with so much stuff that it makes me sad when you can't do that in other VR games. I feel like I'm going to sound insane saying this, But my favorite thing about this game was just being an idiot. I can't tell you how many times I would just pick something up and just start slapping it with my gun. There was so many times where I was just like throwing plates on the ground. I just had a blast being a public nuisance. I was slapping shit closed with my gun, yeeting shit I picked up for no reason. The gravity gloves, I was just flinging things towards me and having an absolute blast. Like, those things could just be their own game. This was some of the most fun I've ever had with a game, and all I was doing was punching the air. Outside of all that, this game is also incredibly smart. All of the foreshadowing in it is super neat, I guess. I don't know. I haven't played any of the other Half-Life games. Like, a buddy was over while I was playing it, and he was pointing out every instance of foreshadowing in the game. My general reaction was like, oh, that's neat, and just went back to throwing shit. Hell, loading your gun is even super fun in this game. Outside of VR, that just sounds super weird. The physics in general is phenomenal. Throwing your grenades back at enemies is always fun in games, but when you can force pull the grenade to yourself and then chuck it back, it's even better. Fighting guys in general is a blast. Every single time I was ducking behind cover and I had to pop up to shoot a guy was amazing. I just got really giddy while playing it. One of my favorite things to do was to walk up to a zombie, tap the shotgun to the back of its head, and blow its fucking brains out. Luckily, I was able to capture my favorite moment in the game. I saw a bunch of guys in a room. I tossed a grenade in there and closed the blinds. After it exploded, I opened it and shot the survivor. Then after I entered the room, the toilet flushed and a guy came out of the washroom. Easily a 10 out of 10 gaming moment. There's just so many small things like that. You can just interact with so much in this game that it leads to amazing level design. That's why I think this is the best VR game I played this year. While Resident Evil 4 VR has better combat, it lacks everything else that makes VR great. Half-Life Alyx is the peak of VR, and everyone should try to emulate what it does. I am so excited for what Valve has next. I promised myself I wasn't going to put a game from this series on this list, but holy f***, I couldn't resist. I'm going to keep this one short. I talked about some of these games last year, and I'm going to make a video on the Like a Dragon series in a few months, and I don't want to repeat myself. So I'll just quickly talk about the two things I really loved about Lost Judgment. The clubs is one of the smartest things that RGG has ever done. If you've played any Like a Dragon game, you would know how important the minigames are to the series. Taking 10 of those minigames and putting them all into one big side quest is an amazing idea. It provides a fun connection between all of them, giving more motivation to play them. I legit got into the lives of the students I was counseling. I wanted the dance club and the robotics club to succeed so badly. Every single time I unlocked a new minigame, my reaction was something along the lines of, what, there's a boxing club? That's f***ing sick. I really liked the story with the mystery research club. The whole thing was fantastic. It really halted my progression of the story. All of this in a game that already has so many different play styles too. It feels excessive, but in the best possible way. I wasn't like, oh my god, this game is bloated. I was like, holy shit, they got more? This game also makes me sad about the current state of the Judgment spin-off series. After beating the first one, I didn't really mind too much that this might be dead. It didn't really resonate with me that much, and RGG has done better than the original Judgment. But then they did better with Lost Judgment, and now I'm really upset that this might be the last one. This game is up there with the peak of the series, which if you know me, is a big thing to say because I love 0, 2, and 7 so much. If you have to play one game in the series, I would recommend this one. It's an excellent modern example of what these games are like. A decade of games all led to this. Monolith has slowly been improving their craft over the years. You can see a progression throughout all of their games, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the pinnacle for now. Picking one thing from this game that made it special was kind of hard. The class system is amazing. They took the blade system from 2 and removed the one thing holding it back: the gacha. And that leads to loads of character customization that feels more earned than its predecessor. The music? It's beautiful. It's epic. It's perfect. With most JRPGs, the party doesn't tend to get equal development, but here, everyone gets a good amount of screen time throughout the story. You get why these people act the way they do. Then the game has them discover their humanity. This cast and what the game does with them is amazing. Noah and Mio are two of the best leads in any JRPG. Amidst how kind of depressing this game is at times, they have a lot of moments that shine. The combat is a perfect mixture of mechanics from Xenoblade 1 and 2. The end of Chapter 5 is a moment that will stick with me for the rest of my gaming career. The emotions that it makes this cast go through, that it makes you go through, is perfect. For me, the end of Chapter 5 is up there with Prison Island from Xeno 1. Very few games have moments that stand beside these two. It's exactly what I wish more games would do with its cast. Throw them into the pit of despair. They go through so much during this game. Its ending is up there with some of the best of all time. It's a masterpiece in the truest sense of the word. I knew it wasn't going to win, but seeing it nominated for GOTY at the Game Awards put a smile on my face. It just straight up should have won Best OST though. Because of how important it is to the soundtrack, they made a custom flute for this game, just to give players a sound they never heard before. And the characters even use it in-game. The best part is, I think Monolith can top this. Takahashi and his team are showing that they are learning from mistakes they made in the past and they are improving from them. They are easily the most underrated dev studio. Much like I said at the start of this segment, it was hard to pick one thing from this game that was special. While the end of Chapter 5 is a pretty easy pick, I think it's more to it than just that. This entire game is special, much like everything that came before it. It did the impossible. It topped the first one in many people's eyes. I've always considered Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 required reading if you love JRPGs. 3 solidifies that even more. It makes what came before it better. And knowing what led to it makes it better. The fact that it got announced for a September release at the beginning of the year and then was pulled ahead to July and didn't feel rushed is impressive. Xenoblade Chronicles is my favorite video game trilogy. A large part of that is this fantastic finish. So to close the year out, I had this bit planned that I was going to set up in my Game Awards video. I was going to tease that I didn't play Elden Ring and then wimp out and just be like, yeah, it deserves GOTY. Which, to be fair, for the larger gaming community, it does deserve it. And then I was going to go on this huge rant about how I don't get the love for FromSoft.
Then after all of that, I was going to escape through that window.
But if you were paying attention, you would know that I didn't make a video on the Game Awards because I was busy with school. It's why this video is also out super late. And I guess when I made that bit, I forgot I live in Canada and it's cold outside and there's a bunch of snow and I really don't want to crawl out of a basement window into said snow. Now I don't know how to end this video. Do you agree? Think I'm an idiot? Comment down below. Dislike the video if you didn't read the rest of this line before you started saying it, and subscribe for more bad content. Follow me on other platforms if you want. Happy holidays, or take care guys. I don't know when I'm getting this video out.
You can run,
but you can hide.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard, you'll swear you died when worlds collide.
Pretty sweet, eh? Crack!